whenever you have a prompt, you want to read that first. And that prompt is asking, how would text 2 respond to text 1? That means we need to understand text 1 and then look and see how text 2 would respond. So let's read text 1. This researcher studied the history of elections and argues that requiring citizens to vote leads to an increase in voters who would not have the time otherwise. Therefore, when they require citizens to vote, that's going to better reflect the preferences of the country as a whole. So requiring people to vote is going to get a more representative sample of the population. What does text 2 say about that? Governments function better when more people vote. However, forcing them will have negative consequences. This study showed that what happens when a country requires its citizens to vote is they found that when people feel forced to vote, they spend less time looking for information about their choices. Therefore, the votes from the voters may not reflect the actual preferences. So just to review, text 1 says that when more people vote, you get a better picture of what people think. Text 2 says that when countries force people to vote, people will spend less time doing their research, and therefore, even though you're getting more votes, they don't reflect the actual preferences. So let's look at the answers. A says only countries of a certain population size should implement it. This was not focused on population size. B says people who are forced to vote become engaged in other ways. That's not what we saw. What we saw was that people who are forced to vote don't really research their votes enough and don't make choices that represent their true views. C, requiring people to vote doesn't necessarily lead to outcomes that better represent the preferences of the country as a whole. That does sound like what we read. And D, countries that require voting must also make the process of voting easier. We didn't see anything about increasing the ease of voting. So the answer here is going to be C.